Monica. I'm now in beautiful Ubud in Bali because I'm going to the Bali Spirit Festival, and one of the key organizers there is the woman next to me, Emily Kuser. Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's awesome being here. I just arrived after a long flight, and we're meeting here in this beautiful place. And from what I understand, you are a yoga teacher, and you specialize in women's sexual health. And one of your workshops in the festival is going to be about understanding sex. And it said, like, warning, you might have to challenge your belief system or something like that. So I really want to hear more about that in the interview. But tell us, like, what is it about Bali? I mean, you've been here for 10 years.
So Bali's attracting people from all over the world right now, and especially here in Ubud. It's become a mecca for yoga and spiritual seeking, meditation, body work, and a lot of women's work too. And I think a big reason people are drawn to this island is because there's daily practices of devotion happening by the Balinese. So all day long, you'll see offerings being placed out by the Balinese women and men, flowers wrapped in banana leaves with incense, and being placed in the front of roads, on scooters, on the front steps of houses,
Nice.
at the temples. There's processions in the streets every single day. There's funerals and cremations every day that are witness to, you know, all the people, the tourists, the expatriates here, the Balinese. Everything's kind of there in your immediate experience.
Yeah.
A lot of devotion. And I think people are drawn to it, especially people that are lacking that or curious about that.
Right, and you chose to, because you come from the US, from Tucson?
Tucson.
Tucson. I didn't know how to pronounce
Tuscany.
it.
Tuscany would
Yeah.
be really nice if I was from Tuscany.
But you moved here. Like,
Yes.
that's a bold choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I moved here and I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anybody. I sold everything and I hopped on a flight based on an intuitive feeling, and I was going through a really big change at that time. Sometimes when you have a crashing depression, I can say, which is what happened, there can be a really big cracking open of light and intuition, and it got me straight here.
I love that when you follow your intuition and take a chance, because you have to take a chance, because it's not rational, you know, just go to Bali and sell everything. That's pretty
Definitely
bold.
not rational.
Yeah. So the Bali Spirit Festival, you've been a part of that, and you are a part of the yoga bar next to this place. It's this huge center where they do a lot of yoga, and a lot of things are happening there. For how long have this spiritual festival been happening?
So this is the 10th festival. So 10th, it's the Big 10. So right when I arrived was the first festival. And the Yoga Barn, which is probably one of the most well-regarded studios, it's a very large studio, it's where I teach, and the Bali Spirit Festival are very interlinked. The family that owns the Yoga Barn also began the Bali Spirit Festival. So the two things have grown together and independently as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this workshop you're going to have. Understanding sex. What is there to understand? I mean, to me it's a pretty private thing, but in another way, I feel like, yes, we need to talk about it more. So what is your perspective on this? What will this workshop be about?
Well, I mean, I feel like I can't say that without just saying why I started to hold this workshop in the first place, which is after almost about 15 years of kind of spiritual seeking and yoga and all of these things, and there was always something missing. And I was always kind of told, don't look at sexuality. I was told that by teachers, I was told that kind of by family in a taboo kind of way, as don't look over there. Look at everything else, but not sexuality, for spiritual purposes.
Like even spiritual teachers.
Yeah.
So they just cut that part out.
Don't go there. And so I didn't, and you name it, I've probably tried it. And I always would get to this point of like, oh, I think this is it. I think I've found what I'm looking for. Oh, that's not it. And oh, I think I've gotten closer to this thing. And oh, that's not it too. And finally, I humbly took a look in the direction of sexuality for, personal reasons, and it was really life-changing, and it held that conversation, and that investigation held all the things I was looking for so many years as a woman, and as a yogi, and as a devoted human being. And what I learned is, with the sexual conversation, one of the biggest parts of that conversation is talking about taboos around sexuality. So talking about promiscuity, talking about masturbation, talking about menstruation, talking about those types of subjects on a cultural basis is really tantalizing with a group of people. You would be surprised at the energy produced in a space where people are allowed to talk about those things and really express their opinion of them, and in a room of different nationalities.
Yeah. So when you do that, I mean, in a group, I guess one needs to really trust each other, because I wouldn't talk about my sexuality with anybody.
You'd be surprised, come to my workshop, you'll probably end up saying things you never thought you would say in public. This keeps happening again and again and again. And that's due to some of the new science out about human sexuality and the evolution of human sexuality. And it's also, I've come up...
What is science saying? Since you're saying that science have come up with something about sexuality, what are they saying in terms of human evolution?
Well, first of all, one of the big things is monogamy. So a lot of the creatures, the mammals that were considered to be monogamous, turn out not to be monogamous. That's some science that's been discovered in the past couple of years. And then that comes into the conversation of human monogamy, and if it's even a real thing, if nature created us as monogamous beings. And that's a really deep, complex, and very groundbreaking conversation for a bunch of adults to have together. Another piece of the new sciences around sexuality is women's sexuality. So there's a few really basic, simple things, like women need to move so much slower than we think. In the bedroom, in bed. If things don't slow down, we're very much hindering our access to pleasure. So physical pleasure, mental pleasure.
And men
slowing down
is kind of the opposite, or do they also need to slow down?
They also need to slow down, but not as much as women do, because men and women operate very differently sexually, and women have been placed into a very masculine lens of what sexuality looks like and is defined by. So what needs to happen is that the two differences need to be acknowledged as two differences for two separate genders. And it's new for women's sexuality to be even researched at this point. It was always looked at through a very masculine lens, and that's so exciting. One of the best books out there right now is a book called Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. Come As You Are, the surprising new science of sexuality.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I think this ties really into actually the discussion, or many discussions around being a woman, feminine, in her feminine power, and being a man in his masculine power. That we're owning more our feminine power, being more feminine, not trying to be a man in a way to survive in the man world and do it man-like, but being more soft if we want to be soft and stuff like that. That maybe it's part of the same. That we need to like honor the way we want to express ourselves.
Being soft and also being really fierce and being, you know, really, I think one really surprising thing, maybe not so surprising, but women have been really placed into quite a monotone frame of personality. It's like, oh, we're only supposed to act this certain way, and our voice is only supposed to go up so high or down so low, or, you know, and in all actuality, each woman is like 10 different women inside. And if we don't allow ourselves to express that in the bedroom and outside of the bedroom, then there's an issue with pleasure. So what you're saying is right, the softness, but also the fire and the speaking the truth and not being afraid of just raw, being full and big and
express
bodacious.
anything, I guess. What about monogamy? You mentioned that a little bit. Like, do you see a time that we're moving into a time where maybe relationship as we know it will change?
I think for Western people, we need science to validate our feelings.
Okay.
And I think because there's so much science coming out, so people can validate something maybe deep inside they're feeling. Yes, I think relationships will change. I'm in a monogamous relationship. I've been in one for a long time, but now I'm learning more and more about, okay, well, why do these problems come up so often in marriages, in couples, and is it because we're fitting ourselves into something that's not nature-based? Like, is marriage and one partner actually what nature intended? Is it from our origins or not? Because research is proving it to be not our origins and not our nature. But we need that kind of structure and framework to raise children and have families. But it does, in my opinion, just asking, like, okay, if nature didn't intend this to be so, if I'm trying to fit myself into something that's not nature-based, I can have a little relief if I'm having relationship problems, because then it's just like, okay, I'm doing my best. We're all doing our best.
Yeah.
And
it's not something wrong with me.
There's not something wrong with us. It's just we're trying to fit ourselves maybe into something that's not really nature-based.
Right.
So,
it's interesting because some people have asked me to bring up exactly this topic about monogamy, and all of a sudden it came up now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how things work out. And I've been reflecting upon it, like, well, would it function in our society with not monogamous relationships? And I mean, it will be challenging because we do get attached to people. And we do get that ownership. So how can it actually work without getting children?
So then it comes down to some real personal development and self-responsibility. And that's what a spiritual path is really all about too. And it brings up really big personal questions of, am I with someone? Is a commitment to someone based on my insecurities? That if they go and have desire, lust, or sex, intercourse with someone else, that's the worst thing that they could do to me, as bad as murder, which is how a lot of couples take it. So is the marriage based on insecurity? Is that is that what we're together for? Is is that the baseline of why we're together, so you don't do that and I don't do that? Is that really kind of what's underlying it? I think those are the questions, the uncomfortable ones that kind of need to be excavated and spoken about so that it's conscious. And if it's conscious, then when something does happen, there's not a big unconscious battle going on between this partner and that partner.
Yeah.
It's a personal development thing to start to understand culturally from my family culture and my country culture. Why do I get so jealous, or why do I get so angry, or why do I get all these emotions coming up if someone decides to go and be intimate with someone else? Where does it stem from?
So basically, yeah, like you say, this is a spiritual journey, because that's very hard. Like the person you're describing, it sounds like a very evolved person.
Yes.
Because it's so easy to get jealous. It's so easy to feel like, well, he's looking at her, he's in bed with her, I'm not good enough. You know?
Yeah, it is easy to go there. I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah, yeah. But there's something beautiful in being loyal to each other. I mean, I think people or couples can do anything as long as they are agreeing about what's the deal in between them.
Yes.
And then stick to that, so they're not in disagreement, like one does one thing and the other one disagrees.
And I'm finding a lot of relationships are working that way. There's, of course, drama and conflict, and there's big, the stirring up of things. If, for example, husband and wife open their relationship and they're doing that for the very first time, and oh my God, but they're communicating, right? So the wife is going to see another man and is saying, I'm going to go and do this tonight, and vice versa.
Wow. Yeah.
I know a lot of husbands and wives, married couples that have done this, and they've learned so much about themselves and what it is to be with a person, which is really, it's really the big, it's the big point is, if you're going to be with someone, if I'm going to be with someone, I'm hoping that over time we're not hiding behind these things. And
are they still able to be together? They still choose that?
A lot of, yes, some and some,
right.
I think what it does is it really allows the man and the woman, or whatever it is, whatever type of coupleship it is, it allows them to get to know themselves better so that they can be more clear, more true, more honest about what they need and want in the moment, instead of hiding it or suppressing sexual desire, which that's another part of this, the science of sexuality, is how much illness that creates in the body.
Oh, it does.
So we squash it, we push it, we tell ourselves it's sacrilegious to have these lusts and desires and everything, and it causes a lot of suffering in the physical body.
I didn't know that.
A lot of the problems that women face physically and mentally today are considered sexual traumas. And trauma can be a small thing like pushing down a very emotional, deep desire to explore something with someone else.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a release to hear in a way,
Oh, yeah.
because it gives you like a permission to, express yourself sexually.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you might get sick otherwise.
You might get sick otherwise.
Yeah.
So this is another reason why right now it's such an exciting time to go and educate yourself, just for the sake of understanding ourselves as men and women. We have access to such mature, wise literature and research on these things, and just to bring the conversation out into the open and get a little less shy about it as adults.
Yeah.
'Cause we're all doing it, right? But
Thank you for doing that, Thank you for
pleasure.
being so brave, because I was like, wow, she must be brave doing that. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people talk about yoga and etc., but not that many people speak so bluntly about sexuality. So
Yeah.
we need that.
Yeah.
So keep up your great work and
Thank
have a
you.
beautiful Bali Spirit Festival.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And thank you for watching, guys. Much light from beautiful Bali. Bye-bye.